The Fender Telecaster is better than the Stratocaster. I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you the essential Telecasters to buy in today's market. Stick with me to the end, I'll give you my absolute favorite. It's John here from Play and Trade Guitars, and the Fender Telecaster is an all-time legendary classic. Man, did they basically get it right out of the gate. The Telecaster is capable of playing every genre of music, and of course, it's a simple guitar with a no-nonsense approach, and I absolutely love Telecasters. In this video, I'm going to make the case for why the Fender Telecaster is better than the Stratocaster. Stratocaster fans, don't worry. Subscribe because I'm going to give you the flip side. I'm going to give you the argument for why the Stratocaster is better. But in today's video, we'll give it to the Tele. I'll tell you the reasons why, and then we'll break down the essential Teles available on today's market. A quick search shows that there's 55 or so different Telecasters offered by Squier and Fender. And so I'm going to cut right to the chase and tell you what it is to have a classic Telecaster and which ones are the best options in today's market. If you are in the market for any new gear, including a Telecaster, click to buy new gear using our link. You'll find it pinned in the comments or down below in the description. And if you're watching on a TV, just scan this QR code and you can shop on your smartphone. One more thing, if you like Les Pauls, we're giving away a Gibson Les Paul Standard. In fact, this one right over my shoulder. To win that guitar, hit subscribe now, turn on notifications, and sign up down below. Without further ado, let me tell you why the Telecaster is better than the Stratocaster and then run down the best options on today's market. First reason, no trem. Unless stylistically you have a reason to use that bar, a lot of players even block down the Strat trem. So if you want to make your life easy, just go with the string-through body simplicity of a Telecaster without the tremolo. Now you may love the sound of a Stratocaster, but it can stick out like a sore thumb. You hear it and go, yep, that's a Stratocaster. And I'll tell you what, the Telecaster is the ultimate chameleon of tones. In my opinion, the Telecaster can handle any genre that you can throw at it. Another point, yes, they've comfort cut the Stratocaster and they've got all those nice, sleek, sexy contours. But I'll tell you what, when you're playing outside and it's 100 degrees, those Strat contours that are supposed to make it more comfortable become a slippery mess. Your arms sliding all over the place. For my money, I actually love the simplicity of a simple slab body. No nonsense, your arm can rest on it like a fulcrum, giving you much more control over your playing position, and it's just a simple slab of wood. How cool is it that that design has held up since the early 50s? Let's talk more about sounds. The middle position on a Telecaster is one of my favorite sounds. Middle position meaning you put the switch in the middle position, activating both the bridge and the neck pickup at the same time. And you may not have thought about this, but unless you modify a Stratocaster can't do that. A stock Stratocaster will not put the bridge pickup and the neck pickup on at the same time. And when you do it on a Telecaster, you get an incredibly percussive, rhythmic, and funky, soulful sound. If you want to do some 16th note, soulful, funky scratching of chords, I'm telling you, the middle position on a Telecaster is a delight and one of my absolute favorite guitar sounds. Stratocaster can't do that. I already mentioned the string-through body, and I believe that it positively affects the resonance of the guitar. The fact that you have a Telecaster going over that metal bridge and then the strings being pulled through the body, I believe it adds not only to the resonance of the guitar, but the feel of the actual tension of the strings. And I'll give you a clear example. If you have a Stratocaster with a floating trem, when you bend on a Stratocaster, if you watch, you will actually see the tremolo increase as you bend a note. And the reason is real simple. That floating tremolo under spring tension is lifting up every time you bend a note. So it's almost fighting the bending of your notes. How about keep it simple? Have a little bit sharper feel of more tension with that string through body from the Telecaster, and let you decide with your fingers where that note is going when you bend. Don't let that tremolo fight you. Headstocks. I gotta give it to the Telecaster. For my money, I think the Telecaster is a cooler headstock. Those might be fighting words. You can tell me in the comments which you prefer, but I think there's a sleek, modern simplicity to the Telecaster, that mid-century, early 50s thing. And the Stratocaster is super cool too. But to me, there's something just so timeless about the Tele headstock. It's sleek and simple, and I love it. I prefer it to the Strat headstock. Simple controls. I love simple controls on a guitar. On a Telecaster, you have a 3-way blade switch with 3 positions. You have 1 master volume and 1 master tone. Stratocaster players, I know many of you have probably never even touched that out of reach tone. And I'll tell you what, I don't need that extra tone control. And 5-way switch, I get it, there's cool sounds that a Strat can do. We'll get to that argument. But for my money's sake, I like a simple guitar. Less is more. 3 blade over 5, 1 volume and tone over the extra split tones of a Stratocaster. Simple is better in my book. Tele wins it there. Now the classic Telecaster has 3 barrel saddles, so 2 strings share 1 barrel. And that's a blessing and a curse of the Telecaster to some because it can affect the intonation. However, nowadays you can get compensated saddles. So if you do have a 3-barrel design on a Telecaster, the compensated saddles will help with the intonation of your strings. And if the detracting argument for a Tele is that you don't like the 3 barrels, now in today's market, of course, you can get 6-saddle, modern intonation, 6 saddles that are adjustable per string. So that rules that out while maintaining the metallic sound of the Tele bridge and the string through body construction. You pick 3-barrel or 6-saddle design. I have some of each. I mentioned that bridge. The classic look of that ashtray bridge and that hunk of metal adds to the sound of the Telecaster. It makes it unique. It's somewhere to park your hand. It's never really bothered me, but also they've done a nice job in modern iterations of stripping away the wall or liner of that ashtray bridge so that it doesn't get so much in the way of your hand. So they've thought of it all in terms of making it a little bit more playable, but I'm making the argument that between the sound of the Strat trem block and the Telecaster bridge, I believe I prefer the Telecaster bridge and its associated specific tone and brightness to the shriller brightness of the trem block in a Stratocaster. I give it to the Telecaster again here. All right, these are a few great reasons why I prefer the Telecaster to the Stratocaster. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What did I miss? What did I forget? What did I get wrong? I'd love to hear from you. We can keep talking about this in the comments. But now I want to turn your attention to showing you the best no-nonsense Telecaster on today's market, and there's one for every budget. There are many variations of the Telecaster that change pickup configurations or switching. I'm going to keep it simple and show you the best options for 2 single coil pickups on a Telecaster. This is the no-nonsense approach. If you're going to have one Telecaster, get the classic configuration, and here's the best options. Remember, if you are shopping for any of this gear, you can click to buy gear using the link pinned in the comments or down below in the description, or scan this QR code. And when you do that, you will get fast free shipping, easy payment plans that makes buying new gear easy, and you help me make these videos. So thanks for doing that. Now, let me break down the market by price, and then I'll give you my absolute favorites. I'm gonna look at this 2 ways. The epitome of a classic Telecaster is going to have an all maple neck and fretboard, and then I'll also show you the more 60s stylings of rosewood or laurel. Let's kick it off first with the quintessential maple neck and maple fretboard Telecaster options. All right, I told you, 65 different Telecasters available on the market. This is your cheat sheet. Save this and send it to a friend because I'm going to make this real easy for you. From the lowest simple Tele, here's a Squier Sonic Tele at $219, 6-saddle, more modern design, and stripped down bridge so that the walls of that bridge, that ashtray, aren't getting in the way of your hand. A more modern playable experience, but it retains the slab body, and it has 2 single coil pickups and the quintessential maple neck. $219, hard to argue with that. I'll tell you though, if you want to go Squier and something under 500 bucks, I'm going to give it to Classic Vibe. I love the Classic Vibe 50s Tele at $429 in white blonde. That's my favorite. They also have a butterscotch blonde. But I'm a sucker for that white blonde. And here you're going to have the more vintage 3-barrel design and a more vintage style bridge. 2 single coil pickups. The pickups in the Squier Classic Vibe series sound fantastic. Fender Standard is a new series at $599. I'm gonna tell you what, skip over it and say that if you're gonna spend $600, skip this one and buy the Fender Player 2. You can get a Player 2 with maple fingerboard, $799. It's gonna have better components, better pickups, and just be a better overall playing experience. 6-saddle, modern design, 2 single coil pickups available in 3 colors: sunburst, black, or I actually really like the coral red. And at $799, it is the best Telecaster under $1,000, period. I'm making this real simple for you. Now, once you break $1,000, we're looking at American-made Teles, and check this out. You can get the American Performer at $1399. This is made in Corona, California. Beautiful satin neck. Satin is a more matte or eggshell finish on the neck. It makes it a little smoother, less gloss, and many players prefer that. It's a very playable experience. You're gonna have these single coil pickups, the 3-barrel with the brass saddles. I love the aesthetic and sound of that. And again, just a classic Telecaster. This is your entry into the Made in America Teles at $13.99. Now, probably the best Telecaster on the market for all-around performance. It's gotta be American Professional 2. And great colors. I love the black, especially with the maple. But look at this, Miami blue, butterscotch blonde, roasted pine. That Miami blue really pops. But at $17.49, if you want the answer to one and done for a Telecaster, I would honestly tell you that American Professional 2 is the best bang for your buck. If you want the best combination of modern and vintage in one playable package, go Am Pro 2. Now, I'm gonna give a passing regard to the Ultra 2 because it's a sleeker playing experience. It's got things like this contoured heel that make it a little bit more modern. But what will differentiate this from the other no-nonsense Telecasters I told you about is that it has noiseless pickups. I'm not a particular fan of noiseless pickups, but I will tell you if you play with higher gain, noiseless pickups are going to save you from the 60 cycle hum associated with single coil pickups. If you like a more vintage tone, as I do, the hum has never bothered me from single coil pickups in a Tele. However, if you're playing with a lot more gain in a modern context, it is probably worth it to check out something like the Ultra 2 instead of the American Professional 2, since these are noiseless and the American Professional 2 are not. But nice features here, including taking the traditional slab body and adding a comfort cut to make it a little bit more comfortable to play, which is a cool idea too. Now, above the Ultra series is going to be the Vintage 2 series, and that's one of my favorites. Those are like year-by-year recreations of quintessential vintage Telecasters. And check this out. It's hard to beat the 1951 Telecaster in butterscotch blonde or prototype white. I love that white. And this is $24.49, topping out the price here. But this is going to be more of a historic vintage recreation of a 1951 Telecaster, made in America, top materials, top considerations when getting the vintage details correct. And I love this guitar. I would personally get the prototype white. And if you wanted no expense spared, best vintage recreation currently on the market, this has got to be it if you want a maple neck. All right, that was all maple. Which of those are your favorites? Now let's take a look at rosewood, which was introduced by Fender in the late 50s and on the Telecasters in the early 60s. And the price options will go from low to high again here. Check it out, $219 Squier Sonic Tele. This is not gonna be rosewood, but it'll be a close approximation with laurel. Pretty hard to argue with $200 Tele. Great entry point for someone just starting out. But if you're willing to spend a little bit more, the Classic Vibe 60s Custom Tele is gonna have really cool features like a bound body, the vintage style 3 saddle design, and this laurel board, which again will feel like rosewood. Now, they've introduced the standard Telecaster also with laurel at $599. I'm gonna be a broken record on this. If you're gonna spend 600 bucks, skip this and spend a little bit more and get the Player 2 Telecaster. This is where the value of Player 2 shines brightest, because in Player 2, now you're getting for $799 the true rosewood fretboard, and Fender did a really nice job of revitalizing the Player series. Player 2 is better than Player 1, and I love that they went with true rosewood here. Vintage aesthetic with these slot tuners, but then modern, a more low profile bridge, and also 6 saddle design for more control over the intonation. Again, I'm gonna say this, the best Telecaster for your money, under $1,000, hard stop, Player 2 Telecaster. My personal preference is rosewood, although the quintessential snappy sound of a Tele that people associate with a classic Telecaster is gonna be maple. My preference, because of its a little bit more mellowed out sound and versatility, I actually prefer the rosewood, so I would go with this Player 2 in birch green, and I also love this polar white, which looks fantastic. Although, for an extra 100 bucks, I will point this out, I noticed, you can get a sparkle 3-tone sunburst, and this looks insanely cool. It's like a metallic finish that's a sunburst. If you want something different, that's actually one of my favorite finishes I've seen from Fender in quite a while. Moving on up here, there is a no-caster I suppose we could have looked at in Ventera 2. The no-caster would be similarly priced if you wanted maple at $1149, but here the Ventera 2 60s Telecaster also really shines. This is gonna be an extremely cool vintage-inspired Tele with a rosewood fretboard. Comparable to Player 2, although in my opinion better, and also different than Player 2, you're going to have the more vintage 3 saddle design. So if you really want a vintage inspired Tele for around $1,000, $1,149, I really dig the Ventera 2 series. In fact, Ventera 2 series is one of my absolute favorite series from Fender, period. Now at $13.99, again, we're breaking into the American-made territory, made in Corona, California. Here's the American Performer with a rosewood fingerboard. Remember that this is a satin feel, so it doesn't look as finished. It's not a gloss finish on this neck, but the satin feel makes it very playable, and this is the first entry point into the American-made Tele with rosewood at $13.99. Between this and American Pro 2, I'm going to steer you towards American Professional 2 for all-around best quality, value, and sound. I love this 3-color sunburst, although they also have a very cool Mystic Surf Green and Olympic White. These are now $17.49. You can click on the link to shop and also for all the current pricing. Many of these go on sale from time to time. For all the current pricing and finish options, I love that Olympic White and 3-color sunburst. Best all-around Telecaster with rosewood at $17.49. Now, Ultra 2 is here. Here's a little bit of a variant here. Instead of rosewood, the Ultra 2 Telecaster will have the noiseless pickups like I showed you previously, but also this will have an ebony fretboard. So ebony is a denser wood, not a traditional wood for a Telecaster fretboard, but something different and unique. The one kind of glaring difference in this example that I'm showing you. Texas T is cool. Solar Flare, if you ask me, is pretty ugly color, but you can let me know what you think in the comments. And then one more to show you. And I'll tell you, before I show you the last one here, remember, if you're in the market for any of these Telecasters or any gear, click to shop for gear using our link. You're gonna get fast free shipping and easy payment plans. You help me make these videos, and trust me, it makes buying new gear super easy, so check that out. Last one I'll show you here, American Vintage 2. This is a stunner right here. The Vintage 2 1963 Telecaster. So a recreation of a 63 Telecaster with rosewood and all the vintage specs. This guitar sounds like $1 million and plays like $1 million. And let me tell you that if any of these pique your interest, you can go watch the full demos on Plain Trade Guitars where I break it down with full specs and performance demos for these guitars. You stuck with me to the end. Now let me tell you my absolute favorite when it comes to maple and when it comes to rosewood. You could probably already guess what I'm going to say. And while there are great budget options, if you wanted me to answer you which Telecaster would I buy to play for life if I could only buy one, I've got to give it to the American Professional 2 series. So I'll give you one more look at the Pro 2 with a maple fretboard at $17.49 currently, or the Pro 2 with rosewood at the same price. I just love what the Pro 2 brings. I love the sound of the single coil pickups. My personal preference is to not have the noiseless pickups. Those will make more sense for you if you play with a lot of high gain, which is great. But in my case, I gotta tell you, after running these down for you, the best series, if you want an answer of only one Tele, has gotta be American Professional 2. If you want something under $1,000, the answer is simple. Player 2 is where it's at. So keep all that in mind. Let me know what you think. What do you think about my argument for the Telecaster being better than the Stratocaster? I'm John for Plain Trade Guitars. Remember to shop gear using our link. Be in it to win it. This Les Paul is going to one of you when we hit 100,000 subscribers. And I'll see you next time on the next video. Take care and keep playing.